What if everything you thought you knew about the internet's favorite catfish queen was only half the story? For years, millions of people have watched Hannah Barron fearlessly wrestle giant catfish with nothing but her bare hands. She made something that looks terrifying seem almost effortless. That skill turned a young woman from rural Alabama into one of the biggest outdoor creators on the internet. But behind the giant catches, smiling photos, and viral videos were stories most fans never saw. A relationship disappeared without explanation. Her father survived a horrifying fall that could have changed everything. And more recently, Hannah found herself at the center of controversies that seemed designed to destroy her reputation. Instead, they did something nobody expected. They made her even more famous. Hannah Barron was born on July 3, 1996, in Crenshaw County, Alabama. It is a quiet, rural place where farmland and woods matter far more than internet fame. Long before Hannah had millions of followers, the outdoors was simply home. When she was around 8 years old, her parents, Jeff and Lisa Barron, separated. But instead of pulling Hannah away from her father, the change seemed to bring the two even closer. Jeff was a serious hunter. Deer season, turkey season, and wild hog season were not just hobbies to him. They were part of life. And he wanted his daughter to understand that life from the ground up. By the time Hannah was 8, she had already taken her first deer, a 7-point buck. But Jeff did not simply hand her an easy opportunity. He made her wait. A dozen smaller bucks passed through before the right one appeared. The lesson was simple: patience matters. That idea would follow Hannah for the rest of her life. While other kids were focused on ordinary childhood interests, Hannah was learning how to track animals, clean a kill, identify wildlife, and move through the woods. By the age of 4, she could already identify many of the snakes around her home. It sounds like a small detail, but it reveals just how early her connection to the outdoors began. She was not learning this for a camera. There was no audience. So what happened when someone finally turned a camera toward her? The answer came through a strange fishing tradition called noodling. Instead of using a rod, bait, or hook, noodlers catch catfish with their bare hands. They reach into underwater holes and wait for a fish to bite or clamp onto their arm. It sounds completely insane until you see someone actually do it. A neighbor named Brad Gavins introduced Hannah to the technique after Jeff had helped him years earlier. Hannah picked it up quickly, almost as if she had been preparing for it her entire life. Then came the moment that changed everything. A cousin happened to capture Hannah pulling a roughly 30-pound flathead catfish from the water using nothing but her hands. The footage was raw. There was no elaborate production. No dramatic music. No polished influencer setup. Just Hannah, muddy water, a huge fish, and a fearless grin. The clip spread rapidly across the internet. People who had never cared about fishing suddenly could not look away. Shares multiplied. Comments exploded. And almost overnight, the internet had a new nickname for her, the Catfish Girl. But the fish itself was only part of the attraction. Hannah did not act like someone trying desperately to become famous. She looked completely comfortable doing something that most people would never even attempt. That authenticity mattered. At a time when social media was becoming increasingly polished, Hannah looked real. She was not pretending to be outdoorsy. She had grown up that way. And that difference helped her reach people far beyond the hunting and fishing communities. In 2018, Hannah graduated from Troy University with a Bachelor of Science degree. By then, her online following was already climbing. She stood around 5 feet tall, which made the giant fish in her videos look even more unbelievable. The contrast became part of her appeal. Here was a relatively small woman casually wrestling animals that looked strong enough to drag a person underwater. Even people who knew nothing about hunting started paying attention. The reaction from the outdoor community was not always positive, though. Some longtime hunters dismissed her viral success as a gimmick. They assumed the attention would disappear. Others questioned whether a young woman should be at the center of a traditionally male outdoor culture. But Hannah kept posting. The catches kept coming. The audience kept growing. And the people who expected her popularity to fade had a problem: it was doing the exact opposite. Then her personal life became part of the story. Around 2016, Hannah began dating fellow hunter Ryan Horton. He appeared regularly in her posts, and the two seemed to fit naturally into the same world. They hunted together, traveled together, and shared the kind of outdoor lifestyle that fans loved watching. In October 2018, Hannah posted about celebrating 3 years together. Everything appeared happy. Just a few months later, another photo showed the couple smiling beside 2 deer after a night hunt. At the time, nobody knew that this would become their final public chapter together. Then Hunter disappeared. NCE left questions that were never answered. A father nearly suffered a life-changing injury but made it home. 2 major controversies were supposed to damage Hannah's reputation, yet both created enormous attention instead. And a business that began with hunting and fishing eventually expanded into something much bigger. From a 30-pound catfish pulled from murky water to millions of people watching her every move, Hannah Barron's story has never really been about becoming famous. It has been about staying recognizable to herself after fame arrived. And perhaps that is why, after everything that has happened, people are still watching. Because the next chapter is almost impossible to predict. But if the last 10 years have taught us anything, it is this: whenever the internet thinks it has finally figured out Hannah Barron, she finds a way to prove that it has not. By 2019, he was no longer appearing on Hannah's feed. There was no breakup video. No long explanation. No public goodbye. His own social presence also went quiet around the same period. Reports later suggested that the couple had become engaged in late 2018, making the sudden disappearance even more mysterious. A relationship that seemed to be moving toward marriage had simply vanished from public view. For years, fans wondered what happened. But Hannah never gave them the answer. She did not turn the breakup into content. She did not publicly attack her former partner. She simply moved forward. That silence was unusual for someone whose career depended on sharing her life online. And perhaps that was the point. Not everything had to become entertainment. Around 2020, another name briefly entered the conversation. Cohen Stone, a fellow hunter and producer, appeared in some posts and public comments. Rumors followed, as they usually do when a famous creator is seen spending time with someone new. But neither side confirmed a relationship, and eventually the speculation disappeared. There was no dramatic reveal. No scandal. Just another unanswered question. Meanwhile, Hannah's closest partnership was becoming even more important. Her father, Jeff, had been there from the beginning. He had taught her to hunt, introduced her to the outdoors, and helped shape the skills that eventually became her career. After 2019, that father-daughter partnership became increasingly connected to the business side of her life. Jeff even became involved with editing for the family's YouTube content. The same man who had taught Hannah patience in the woods was now helping her build a digital career. But then, in January 2024, their relationship was tested in a way neither of them could have expected. On January 5, 2024, Jeff climbed into a friend's hunting stand to inspect the equipment. When his weight hit the platform, a strap suddenly snapped. He fell somewhere between 18 and 20 feet. The impact knocked him unconscious, and when he woke up, he was alone in the woods without a phone. What happened next sounds almost unbelievable. Jeff walked roughly 400 yards through the trees, climbed a fence, and drove himself home. At the hospital, doctors discovered 3 fractured vertebrae in his neck, 2 more fractures in his lower back, and a bruised kidney. Hannah later spoke about how frightening the situation had been. Doctors warned that one wrong movement could have caused a spinal cord injury. A slightly different outcome could have changed Jeff's life forever. He survived. And that accident put everything else into perspective. The views, the business, the money, the controversies, and the constant pressure of social media suddenly looked very small compared with simply having her father come home alive. But while Hannah and Jeff were dealing with that reality, another part of Hannah's life had quietly changed too. Around 2022, a man named Paul Washer began appearing in Hannah's posts. He is a professional firefighter and Air Force aviator from Alabama. Fans immediately noticed. Who was he? Was it serious? Was another engagement coming? Hannah did not answer with a dramatic announcement. Paul simply became part of the world that already existed around her. He appeared on hunting trips and in casual photos. He seemed comfortable in the same environment that had always defined Hannah. Then came Valentine's Day 2024. Hannah shared a photo of herself and Paul holding a catfish together. The caption simply wished everyone a happy Valentine's Day. For most people, it would have been an ordinary relationship post. For Hannah's audience, it said everything. There was no staged reveal. No elaborate speech. Just two people sharing the lifestyle they already enjoyed. That difference mattered. Hannah had spent years showing the public almost every part of her outdoor life, yet she had never seemed interested in turning romance into a spectacle. This time, the relationship appeared steady and natural. Fans gradually stopped asking questions because the answer was already visible. Paul fit into her world rather than asking her to become someone else. And while her personal life was evolving, Hannah's business was growing rapidly. In September 2023, Hannah and Jeff co-founded a CBD company aimed at outdoorsmen, adventurers, and travelers. The move made sense because they were not trying to build an audience from scratch. They already had one. Their followers had watched the father and daughter hunt, fish, travel, and work together for years. Now that trust was being turned into a business. Jeff was also working on something more personal. He began building a dream home from the ground up, largely by hand. In a 2024 Father's Day post, Hannah thanked him for everything he had provided over the years, including, quite literally, the roof over her head. The message showed that the relationship was bigger than business. Before Jeff was her business partner, he was the father who took her into the woods and taught her how to wait for the right moment. The numbers showed just how far that early training had taken them. Hannah built a huge following across multiple platforms, with close to 1 million YouTube subscribers, more than 1.7 million Instagram followers, and over 2 million followers on TikTok. Estimates placed her net worth in the millions by 2025, while sponsorships, merchandise, and other business ventures created a serious income stream. What began with a cousin filming a catfish catch had become a full media brand. And the influence went beyond one creator. Industry research has pointed to a major rise in female hunters since 2016, and Hannah became one of the most visible women showing that outdoor culture could look different from the old stereotype. She also reached audiences through archery and other outdoor skills. One viral archery clip was even praised by major sports media for its impressive accuracy. Hannah was no longer simply the woman who caught a giant catfish. She had become a recognizable face of modern outdoor culture.